Welcome to another episode of the Life'sPlaybook podcast. This is episode 8 of my show. It's National Championship weekend. If you haven't heard already, the teams that are in the National Championship are Ohio State and Notre Dame. Great seasons from both teams. Very unexpected that we'd see these two teams in this type of situation, given the vast changes from the past to now. So, with that being said, it's time to give the actual preview and what I think is about to go down in that national championship game, because this is a very interesting, a very exciting moment, and it's a very different time in college football that we are living in. So things change, things are different, things aren't always the same, especially with the college football playoffs. So with that being said, let's dive right into episode 8 of the Life's Playbook podcast. As always, the game never ends here with the Life's Playbook podcast. Let's get into it. Well, it is no secret that Ohio State and Notre Dame are both the two teams in this year's college football playoffs. It is no secret that these two teams, rightfully so, are where they are at. They are very deserving of a national championship, each team respectfully, but only one team can win the big one. Only one team can win a title. So, with that being said, I'm an Ohio State guy. I'm an Ohio State fan. So obviously, I got Ohio State winning the national championship, but it's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be an easy road. Now, we've seen in the past with Ohio State, and we've seen in the past with Notre Dame. Let's start with Ohio State first. We've seen in the past with Ohio State in these recent playoff games that they are more than capable of blowing you out if you do not have an ideal start against them. I can't stress this enough time and time again that the key to beating Ohio State is jumping on them early and firing on all cylinders. You can't have a mistake against Ohio State because they will capitalize and they will beat you if you have a mistake. With that being said, one point of emphasis that's really going to decide this national championship is who has the better start first. It is no secret that Ohio State is more than capable of having a better, faster, and stronger start than Notre Dame. Notre Dame tends to play from behind and as of recent games, and they tend to let up leads as in recent games. But I don't think that's going to be the case here for Ohio State. I don't think that's going to be the case here for Notre Dame going against Ohio State. I think that Notre Dame, they know they have to come with their A game against Ohio State. They know that it's not going to be an easy challenge. It's not going to be an easy game against Ohio State. With that being said, they're going to have to bring their A game right off the bat. I think if they have another start like they did against Penn State in the semifinals, I think that's going to ultimately seal the game for Notre Dame if they have a similar start the way they did against Penn State. They can't have that type of start. They need to have a start right off the bat, like against Indiana. Jumped on them pretty early. They're going to need to have that exact same start against Ohio State if they want any shot of winning this game. Now, I'm not saying Ohio State is going to blow out Notre Dame. I think it is possible, and I think Ohio State is capable of it, but I don't think that Notre Dame defense is going to let up and let that happen. The Notre Dame defense is no slouch, but I don't think it's of the same caliber as the Texas defense. I think Texas, again, I've said it throughout many, many videos, many takes, that Texas has the best defense. They had the best defense in this year's college football playoffs, and they stood by it. They showed that they had the best defense out of all 12 teams in that college football playoff. So it's not like, Notre Dame isn't as capable as Texas is at slowing Ohio State down. And I think they're definitely going to pick some things up from that game, Texas versus Ohio State. They're going to pick some things up and they're going to do some things differently. Another point of emphasis that I'm going to point out for Notre Dame in order if they want to have a chance to win this game. Notre Dame is a very man-heavy coverage defense. They run a lot of man. They're in a lot of one-on-ones. They don't really run a lot of coverages. Now, we've seen in earlier times in the season that Jeremiah Smith is virtually unguardable one-on-one. And we saw in the Texas game when Texas was playing coverage, they held Jeremiah Smith to just 3 yards. Now, is Notre Dame going to do the exact same thing? Probably not. I don't think they're going to completely move away from the one-on-one coverage, the man coverage, but they're going to definitely need to switch things up if they want to have a chance to beat Ohio State. I think they're going to mix it up a little bit to try to confuse Will Howard, to try to get Will Howard off his rhythm. We've seen that Will Howard is capable of leading games, and he is capable of being a turnover machine. So there are flaws and there are pros with Will Howard as a quarterback. Ohio State knows it, and Notre Dame knows it. They know that they need to get after Will Howard, and they know that they need to disrupt his rhythm in order to shut him down offensively in the pass game. And they know they're going to need to play some zone against Jeremiah Smith defensively if they want a chance to hold him down. Now again, I've said in many, many takes that it's going to take a lot more than just stopping Jeremiah Smith to beat Ohio State, because Ohio State has all these other great receivers. They have 2 of the best running backs in the country as far as a duo. So they're going to need to stop everybody. If Jeremiah Smith has a bad game, that doesn't mean Emeka Egbuka is going to have a bad game, or Carnell Tate, best wide receiver 3 in the country, is going to have a bad game. There's a lot of weapons and area that Notre Dame is going to have to cover. Whether they can cover it or not remains to be seen. But I don't think they're going to. Again, the Notre Dame defense is not a slouch. They are no slouch, but I don't think they are of the same level as that Texas defense. Now, with that being said, on Ohio State's part, the path for Ohio State to beat Notre Dame is quite simple. The last time Ohio State played Notre Dame, it was in 2023. Kyle McCord was the starting quarterback at the time. Ohio State ends up winning that game in a very close game. It came down to a late game touchdown by Ohio State at the goal line to win that game. That type of performance cannot happen against this Notre Dame team, because this Notre Dame team is not the same as the Notre Dame team from 2023. Ohio State's going to need to have the exact same start they had against Tennessee, and they're going to have the exact same start they had against Oregon to win this game. Notre Dame likes to keep games close. They like to play to their tempo. They like to keep the game slow moving. They like to control the clock, and they like to obviously run the ball. Ohio State's going to need to stop the run. They're going to need to stop Jeremiah Love. He is the best running back. He is the 3rd best running back in this college football playoff, behind Cam Scadabo and Ashton Jeanty. But he is no slouch, despite being considered the 3rd best running back, in this year's playoffs. They're going to need to slow him down, and they're going to have to virtually stop him. Now, I think Ohio State's defense is more than capable of doing so. They've showed in the past against Texas, and they've showed in the past against Oregon that they are more than capable of stopping the run, and I think they're going to do that against Notre Dame. They know they have to do that. But a key point of emphasis for Ohio State in order to win this national championship game is the game cannot be similar to that 23 game. Because if it is similar to the 23 game, then Notre Dame will have a chance at winning this game. Because again, Notre Dame likes to play to their strengths. They like to play to their tempo. They like to run the ball. They manage games. Ohio State dominates games. Notre Dame manages games. And, you can't be mad at that, because Marcus Freeman is a mastermind head coach. He's a great coach. He's turned that program around since Chip Kelly left to LSU. He's really changed that program around, and he's done some different things. But with that being said, he's also a game manager. He knows how to properly manage time, and he knows how to properly manage a game in certain game situations. So for Ohio State, that type of performance in 23 cannot be the theme of this national championship, because this Notre Dame capitalizes off of close games like that, as opposed to the 23 Notre Dame squad, when things were a little different. So the two points of emphasis for Ohio State: don't have a 2023 type of game, otherwise Notre Dame can capitalize and will capitalize off of that. Notre Dame You're going to have to jump out on Ohio State early if you want to have a chance to stay in the game. Again, I think Ohio State is more than capable of blowing out Notre Dame. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't expect it to happen. And the fans don't expect it to happen either, because we want this to be us as fans, we want this to be a close national championship game. We don't want this to be another TCU versus Georgia game where Georgia absolutely blew out TCU in 2022. We don't want it to be like that. We want it to be entertaining. We want it to come down to the wire, and we want to see, a rightful, deserving team, be that Notre Dame or Ohio State. We want to see that team actually play and compete for a national championship. We don't want to see a blowout, because that wouldn't look good for the first year. That wouldn't look good. That wouldn't be a good ending to the first 12-team playoff year. That wouldn't be good, and it wouldn't look good. It would hurt the product. So, I'm not saying that a blowout is going to happen. I really don't expect a blowout to happen. But it is possible. I'm saying that it is possible for Ohio State to blow out Notre Dame, especially with all the momentum that they have coming into this game, the history that they have against Notre Dame, and the history that Notre Dame has shown, the flaws and the weaknesses that Notre Dame has shown. Penn State quite literally exposed a big weakness of Notre Dame. If they stop the run, Notre Dame have to rely on Riley Leonard's arm to get the job done. Now, Riley Leonard's arm, it's no slouch. It's not like he can't pass, It's not like he doesn't have competent receivers. He's got weapons. Riley Leonard has weapons. But it's no secret that his strong suit is running with his legs and handing the ball off to Jeremiah Love. So the biggest emphasis that Ohio State is going to need in order to shut down Notre Dame is they're going to need to put a heavy emphasis on stopping the run, but they're also going to need to put a emphasis on watching out for those play action plays, those quick screens and whatnot from Notre Dame, because they can, if time calls, if duty calls, Notre Dame can throw the ball. So those are some points of emphasis for both teams, and that's really the only direct path that I see for Notre Dame and that I see for Ohio State, for either one of those teams to win this national championship. Again, I don't expect a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, because, again, that wouldn't look good it wouldn't be a good ending to the first 12-team playoff year. It wouldn't be a good ending. So I don't expect a blowout, and I think both teams are capable of blowing out the other. Ohio State a little more capable of doing so with all the weapons that they have. But it's probably not going to be the case. It's probably not going to be that way. I think us as fans, be it NFL or college or just a football fan in general, we as fans, we want to see a competitive, close game. We want to see like a Penn State Notre Dame game, where that game came down to the wire and it came down to a field goal. We want to see that type of competitive spirit. We want to see that type of competitive attitude, because that would look good for the product that is college football. That would be a good ending to the ever 12-team college football playoff. But it is no secret that, with what Ohio State has done and the history that they have against Notre Dame and what they've shown in these past couple playoff games, is that they have the capability, when things are at stake, that they have the capability to blow teams out. They've done it to Tennessee. They did it to Oregon. Now, granted, this Texas game, it wasn't the best performance offensively from Ohio State. It did come down to the defense ultimately getting a big stop that game. But Ohio State is capable of blowing out Notre Dame. Again, I'm not expecting it, and I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying they are capable of doing so. Notre Dame, again, they got to manage not only J.J. Smith, but they also have to manage all the other weapons as well that are capable of putting on big performances, as well as Jeremiah Smith. So Notre Dame's going to be, defensively, they're going to need to show a lot of different things. They're going to need to do a lot of different coverages that they don't normally do in order to stop Ohio State. I think it's not going to feel exactly the same for Notre Dame as in terms of what they run. they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone a little bit, which is that man coverage. They're going to have to step out of that comfort zone a little bit and run some zone. They got to in order for Notre Dame to contain Ohio State, because again, the 2023, Ohio State Notre Dame game can't happen. If you're Ohio State, you can't let that type of game happen because Notre Dame plays to that type of strength. They they know how to properly manage games, and they know how to properly put teams away when time calls. But in Notre Dame's case, they need to step out of their comfort zone to be able to contain a Travion Henderson or a Quinshawn Judkins or a Carnell Tate, you know, Mecca Ibuka. They're going to need to step out of their comfort zone big time in order to do this. I'm not saying that they can, and I'm not saying that they are incapable of doing so. It's just it's not going to be the same for them in terms of running and coming up with different schemes for multiple guys, not just Jeremiah Smith. They're going to need to come up for schemes for multiple guys on that Ohio State offense if they want to have a chance to stay in this game, as well as they're going to need to come out swinging on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders, if they want to have a chance to stay in this game and to make it a game. Because again, I can't stress this enough, that Ohio State capitalizes off of teams having slow, bad starts. If Notre Dame gets off to the exact same start that they had against Penn State, they might not have a chance at all at winning this national championship game. Not saying that they couldn't recover, but if they have a start similar to the first half of that Penn State game, they might not have a chance of winning this national championship. If that's the kind of start that they get off to. Ohio State, on the other hand, if they have a similar start to the 23 game of Ohio State and Notre Dame, again, Notre Dame, they can capitalize off of that. They can make it a game, and they can play to their strength. They can play to their tempo, and they can run the ball. It's possible. I expect this game, personally, to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be not a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a 25-20 type of game, a 20-21 type of game. It's not going to be, an all-time performance on both sides, even though both sides are going to need to have an all-time performance. But I don't think the game itself is going to be an all-time national championship type of game that we talk about for years to come. I think it's going to be a little more conservative-based for both teams, especially Notre Dame. I think it's going to be that 20-21 type of game or a 14-17 type of game. The defenses, I know for a fact, are definitely going to have to show up because both teams could get hot at any minute and both teams could take this game away early. And Ohio State especially specializes on taking the game away early and taking you out of the game early. So, Notre Dame, if you want to have a shot at winning this game, and I think all Notre Dame fans know this, if you want to have a shot at winning the national championship, you're going to have to play outside of your comfort zone. That's the first point of emphasis, and the second point of emphasis is you're going to have to fire on all cylinders. Are you capable of doing it? I think so. I think Notre Dame is more than capable of doing it, and I've enjoyed watching Notre Dame this entire time leading up to the national championship. I've enjoyed watching Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman and the job that he's done in coaching that team. I've enjoyed watching Notre Dame up to this point, but it is no secret that they are not playing a slouch. Ohio State, especially with the season that Ohio State has had, losing to Michigan, which you could argue was the greatest thing to happen to Ohio State because it gave them enough fire and fuel to bring them to where they are now, and with a lot of things at stake. Prior to the first playoff game, everybody knew that it was championship or bust for Ohio State. After that Michigan game, everybody knew, the media knew, that it was championship or bust for Ohio State, and the coaches know it, the coordinators know it, the players know it. The players on Ohio State definitely know it, that it's championship or bust. So Ohio State is going to come out with a lot of motivation and a lot of determination and they're going to have a huge incentive to win this chip, because if Ohio State ends up winning this chip, the title, not only are a lot of jobs going to be saved, but it would be a salvaged ending to all the seniors that came back to the squad, to the 24 Buckeye squad. It'll be a salvaged ending to all those guys who are going to be, NFL players. It'll be a salvaged ending for all those guys. They'll have something to write home about. They'll have something to brag about. Obviously, we, that Michigan game, it would have been great to have that game under, our belts as well. But if Ohio State can walk away with the national championship, and everybody who's a fan of Ohio State knows this, everyone from the fans down to the last player on that sideline, they know this, that if Ohio State wins this chip, it's going to mean a lot to the seniors that came back, and it's going to mean a lot to other upcoming seniors and juniors that come back to this 25 squad. So it's gonna mean something. The season's gonna have a meaning to it, and Ohio State knows that. So they're gonna come in, firing on all cylinders to make that happen, to give the seniors of the 24 squad a good ending to what beating Michigan could have been. It would have been, again, it would have been nice to have beaten Michigan and win a national championship. That would have been as an Ohio State fan, that would have been a perfect season, probably the best season in Ohio State history if those things happened. But it is what it is. Ohio State still has a chance to salvage what would be known as a bust of a season if they don't win, but they have a chance to salvage the season. They have a chance to walk away with something great. They have a chance. Ryan Day has a chance to flip the script, to change the doubters' minds. Let me tell you, after that Michigan game, there were a lot of doubters, and there probably still are a lot of doubters. This is Ryan Day's chance to make a legacy, to make a name for himself, that he's capable of coaching Ohio State. He's capable of winning a championship with Ohio State. He's capable of winning big games with Ohio State. He's capable to uphold the Ohio State talent, the Ohio State standard, which is beat Michigan and win a national championship. This is his chance. This is Ryan Day's chance to prove that he's competent. And this is the best Ohio State team I've ever seen in my lifetime, and this is the best Ohio State team probably in Ryan Day's tenure as a coach. This is probably his best team he's ever assembled. So this is, what better year to win a national championship for Ohio State than 2024? Notre Dame, they're riding on a similar story, but they haven't had a loss as excruciating to the level of Ohio State losing to Michigan. They haven't really had that. I know they lost to NIU in the second week of the regular season, but you could say that that's fueled Notre Dame to put them in the position that they're in now. But Notre Dame, aside from Marcus Freeman potentially making history, that's something to play for. Marcus Freeman being the first ever black head coach to win a national championship, that's history right there, and that's a good enough incentive and motivation for Notre Dame to want to win this chip. Both teams are going to have something to ride on. Both teams are going to have something to go with, to elevate them, to motivate them, to get them an incentive to want to win this game. Not just to add another. It's not just about adding another title to the rafters. It's not just about that. It's not just about adding another title to your legacy, even though it's nice. But for both teams, there's something greater. There's something greater at stake for both teams. There's history to be made with Notre Dame, and there's jobs and seniors and a saving of a season for Ohio State, a chance to prove the world wrong about Buckeye Nation, that Buckeye Nation is the best it's ever looked. And this is the best team that Ryan Day has arguably ever had in his tenure at Ohio State. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of incentives. There's a lot of things that both teams have that can, that's going to elevate these guys. That's going to motivate these guys to win a chip. There's a lot of things. Now, again, back to the game itself. I don't expect it to be, you know, a game that a national championship type of game that we talk about for the ages. It's going to be a conservative type of national championship type of game. Both teams are going to play relatively conservative, but again, in my opinion, if either team wants to have a chance to win this chip, they need to come out firing on all cylinders from the first play of each team's respective drive, and then the first half. If Notre Dame again falls off if they get onto the exact same start that they had against Penn State, they have no shot at winning the chip. No shot. Because Ohio State's going to take that, and they're going to run up the numbers early, and it's just going to be impossible to play from behind if you're Notre Dame. Ohio State, on the other hand, if they have a similar type of game to, the 2023 meeting, where it's going to come down to, a goal line last-minute touchdown, if that's the type of game that Ohio State plays, then Notre Dame could easily win this chip, because this Notre Dame team, unlike the 23 Notre Dame squad, this Notre Dame team, they can finish games, they can manage games. Marcus Freeman, again, he is a brilliant head coach. He's got great clock management, he's got great game management. He knows how to close games. So, with that being said, whoever comes out firing on all cylinders, in my opinion, is going to end up winning this national championship. Whoever's defense shows up big time, and we've seen both defenses show up big time. Ohio State's best defensive showcase was arguably against Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and Notre Dame's best defensive showcase was against Penn State in the semifinals, arguably. But whoever's defense shows up and whoever fires off on all cylinders is gonna win this chip. I mean, personally, I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm rocking with Ohio State either way, no matter what start we get off to. But more realistically, whoever does those two things is going to end up winning this chip. And I'm excited to watch this game. I hope you guys are excited to watch this game as well. I think this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. But, again, those two things, whoever can do those two things better than the other team is going to win this chip. And it's going to make either history or they're going to save their season. But, with that being said, it's been a decent first year of the 12-team college football playoffs. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed with this playoff. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed in terms of seating wise for next year, in terms of formatting for next year. There's a lot of things that the committee's got to look at and they got to fix, because this playoff, it wasn't great. It wasn't perfect. Some teams got the shorter end of the stick as opposed to others. Oregon is a great example of that. So there's things that can be done differently. But if this national championship game comes down to the wire, and it's a great game overall, it's a competitive game overall. If that is the case for this national championship game, then I think it's going to be a great ending and it's going to look good for the first ever 12-team college football playoff. It's going to look good, and it's going to be a great ending to the first ever 12-team college football playoffs. It's going to be great, and I think it's going to give the committee a lot to use to build off of for next seasons to come, in terms of fixing what's the major issue. Because the major issue all year long with the idea of the 12-team college football playoffs, the major issue was seeding, and it's shown that seeding was the biggest major issue for the first 12-team college football playoff. It's shown that was the major issue. Oregon fans, they've been saying that it's not fair that they finish number one in the nation and they finish undefeated in the nation and they win their conference handily. and they have to face Ohio State 3 weeks later. That type of seeding can't happen. That there's got to be a balance. There's got to be they got to get it right, and I think the committee will get it right. And I think this national championship game is gonna move this playoff into the right direction. It's gonna move this type of formatting into the right direction for years and years to come. So, with that being said, again, it hasn't been the best start to something new. It hasn't been the best 12-team college football playoff, but it's only been the first, and I think it can get better over time as the media continues to highlight problems and these games start to show that there are other issues besides the seeding and whatnot. I think this playoff, this formatting can get better. I think it will get better, and I think again this national championship game is going to be a great thing. How this game goes, how this national championship game goes, is going to be a great thing for the playoffs moving forward. So, with that being said, if you haven't gotten a chance to, obviously watch my other episodes, the other 7 episodes that are out, it's crazy that my show's already almost approaching 10 episodes. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch all 7 episodes that are out now, I encourage you, if you are watching on Twitch, I encourage you to check out the YouTube link in my bio as well as the Instagram link in the bio, and I encourage you to follow and subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated, and it helps, obviously, the show grow to new heights. Like and subscribe, as always, it's greatly appreciated. With that being said, this has been episode 8 of the Life's Playbook podcast. Again, I'll be watching the championship game. I hope you guys watch the national championship game as well. Stay tuned for the next Tuesday talk, which is this Tuesday. That talk might be a little late because I'll be doing some behind the scenes. I got some behind the scenes things to do prior to shooting that day, but stay tuned to that. That next Tuesday talk. It'll most likely be just a general talk about the championship game, how it went, and how this season went overall for your favorite team. But stay tuned for that. Again, Tuesday Talks will be streaming on Twitch and YouTube. They most likely won't be every Tuesday because, again, if there's no story, if there's no juicy story, there's no Tuesday Talk. So they may not be every Tuesday, but I'll try to be consistent with that as possible. Again, check out the Insta link in the Twitch bio. Check out the YouTube link in the Twitch bio. If you want to help the channel grow, I encourage you to follow the Instagram channel and follow the YouTube channel, especially considering the ban on TikTok. The podcast's time on TikTok has been short-lived. But if you enjoy the content and you, again, want to help the channel grow, I encourage you to do all those things. With that being said, this has been episode 8 of the Life's Playbook podcast. I think this national championship game is going to be good. It's going to be a good thing for the playoffs. And I will catch you guys Sunday for episode 9. Till then, peace out.